the Safe Schools Alliance UK. So this is a group that I admire the work. They've been doing it for a number of years in the UK, focused on the whole area of sex and gender being taught in schools. And one of the areas we're going to highlight today is the Welsh sexuality education material and the introduction of queer theory into that and what that's meant. We've touched on queer theory in other videos, so if you haven't seen those videos, you may not be fully up to speed on it. We're not going to go through it in detail here, but we'll give you kind of an idea. And just to emphasize, like queer theory right now, that term queer is not, we're not relating it to gay, and it is not a definition of that has anything to do with a gay identity. So we're not getting at gay people here. This is people who have adopted queer theory as a belief system and are activists and promoters for it. And you don't need to be gay to be that. You can be, most of the people who actually adopt this are actually heterosexual people. On this website, we have this critique of comprehensive sexuality education, which we referred to. So our thanks to Safe Schools Alliance for producing this. It's a comprehensive document. Again, we'll have a link to that. And one of the examples, I guess, that they highlight, which is something we've been highlighting, there's groups going around the UK, for example, promoting masturbation as a tool for sex education. And they talk about that they deal with that on their website, one of their articles. So this is just highlighting they're dealing with all the same stuff that we're trying to deal with here. And they're probably ahead of us a little bit because they've had it for longer than we've had it. So the benefit of looking at a website like this is that it's addressing issues that perhaps we haven't uncovered yet or got to yet or haven't got a position on yet. So that's why it's very worthwhile checking them out.
And Eugene, just about masturbation, the Irish school curriculum, the libraries and the schools seem obsessed with teaching children about masturbation. We revealed one of the books has 8 pages on masturbation, including mutual masturbation. And we also were made aware by a concerned parent that third parties are going into schools to teach Irish children about masturbation. Schoolfitnessireland.ie, which is an exercise fitness company, going in to teach children about masturbation. It's all through the books. Third parties are teaching it. I was thinking about why would the school system be so obsessed with teaching young children about masturbation? It's on the WHO standards of sexuality, teaching age 0 to 4 about masturbation. And I had a bit of a light bulb moment, and I think it's, they want to get to a point where sex is for pleasure, and as long as it's consensual, it's okay, no matter what your age is. And so if they can get children to really start masturbating and how, teach them that this feels good, that just opens the door to, and look, sex will feel good. And as long as you consent, it's okay. Even if you're age 9, which is what the WHO standards of sexuality says, sex at age 9. So this obsession with masturbation is about the pleasure aspect, to open the door for children to know how good it feels to consent to sex with adults. That's it.
Yeah, it's kind of, it is a stepping stone, and it's also it brings in porn, it brings in, and it's going to ultimately have a dumbing down effect. It's part of the dumbing down, controlling, separating kids from their parental guidance. You can just it hits it on multiple areas. So as I said, there's some good material here. Take a look at the stuff that they've got. I suppose to extend that now into this whole notion of queer theory in Welsh schools. So this is important. And people, if you look at the age group they're talking about here, because we've been talking about the primary curriculum, they're talking about age 3. Age 3. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean bringing queer theory into a group like an age group of 3? It means bringing in concepts like masturbation, as we've been just talking about, to an age 3 person in preschool. It means bringing other aspects of sexuality, gender identity, to a child of that age, and confusing the hell out of them, the poor little child. So this is the issue. This bringing of queer theory into the school environment and bringing it in at a really young age is deadly. And the fear is that that's what we're going to be attempting to do in our primary curriculum in Ireland. Like it's here in our junior cycle, we know that, and there's more to come on that. And I guess this article refers to an academic, this professor EJ Renold from Cardiff University, who's essentially a queer activist. She's probably even more of a political activist, to be honest, when you look at some of her material. And here it is, transforming relationships and sex education in Wales, England, and internationally. So take note of the internationally. International means Ireland. So one of our lecturers from DCU worked with EJ Renold on the Welsh RSE program and has been responsible for implementing the teacher training program for our SPHE in Ireland. And EJ
So
Renold
Eugene,
has
if I
been
can just
involved in that
pause
program
for a
as well.
moment, because that's a really important
Yeah.
point. So EJ Renold, this queer theory political activist, has worked with someone developing the education curriculum for our children in Ireland.
Yes. And it's heavily influenced by the Welsh one. And the guidance, the recommendation made by Aoife Neary to the Dail committee in 2018 when she spoke about sexuality education, what she recommended taking on the Welsh approach, adopting it in Ireland. So, and in that same speech, and again, we'll put that link to that in the description, she also talked about age going down to age 4. She mentioned age 4. She talked about childhood innocence. She talked about barriers regarding ethos. All the stuff that we know only too well has been happening. Now, you'll see the stuff in the background graphic here, this primary agenda, and it is an agenda. She's got it right. If you download this document, it's an 85 megabyte download. We'll have a link in the description to it. What actually got me wasn't the sexual stuff, it's the politics that's in it. And I'll show you a paper here from EJ Renold, one of the papers. She's very prolific. She's got a lot of papers, a lot of research papers covering all the sorts of, queer theory and sex education type stuff and feminist theory, etc. Look at this section here. Just if you want to go down, this rich history of feminist, queer, and post-colonial movements. She's bringing in feminism and post-colonial movements. And then we're calling time and what matters, from slut shaming. It's probably a term people aren't that familiar with. Sexual consent, FGM, that female genital mutilation, to trans rights, inclusive sexuality education. Okay, there's that word. There's the magic word, inclusive sexuality education, and why feminism should be on the school curriculum. Okay, so there's an awful lot to take. Like, that paragraph alone should be enough to send shivers down the spine of any parent, because it just encompasses a whole load of political agendas wrapped into one. And if that's going to inspire the education of your children, not just from an SPHE perspective, but from a whole curriculum perspective, that's pretty terrifying. And if you download the agenda resource and take a quick look through it, you should get the same feeling. This is leftist, hard left activism is what this is all about.
I was going to say
education.
it's satanic, but hard left activism. I suppose there's a very fine line between Satanism and hard left activism.
Yeah, no, it really, this is serious. This is radical feminism. It's queer theory. It's all the other stuff. The only thing she didn't mention race in there. I'm just surprised that doesn't seem to be a big theme for her. But you could add in critical race theory as well. Would be into that thing. She's already talking about post-colonial theory there. So this is pretty horrific stuff. And so people like EJ Renold, and she's not alone, right? She's not alone. There's plenty of EJ Renolds out there in America and Canada and other countries who cranking out the books, cranking out papers on education. So most of the modern educational theory, if I call it that, regarding, education, inclusive education, or education for social justice, is going to incorporate this stuff, and is also going to incorporate our good friend Paulo Freire, as we talked about before, or Henry Giroux, or people like that. These are the people you're going to see. And we probably need to do a separate video on queer pedagogy, because we probably need to talk about some of those papers and the techniques that some of these queer educators use. People like Kevin Kumashiro, if people want to do some investigation on Kevin Kumashiro, for example, and how he abuses children. And I'm calling it abuse because it's psychological abuse. That's what it is, of children in a classroom. So this is really concerning. The Safe Schools Alliance UK are highlighting this because it's in the Welsh schools, particularly bad in the Welsh schools, because this lady was involved, and the Welsh government is particularly woke, and it's mandatory. There's no opt-outs in Wales. Your child is going to get this in the neck, and you can't get away from it unless you homeschool. So it is really bad in Wales, and I don't think we're getting it quite as bad here, but it's the same ethos, the same thought process behind it, and ultimately the same content is coming into our system as well. So forewarned is forearmed, and let people be forewarned, because this is where it's coming from. So people ask, where did that stuff come from? It's alluded to by the World Health Organization and the UNESCO guidelines. They basically give the high level support for this, and then the detail comes from people like EJ Renold and the academics in places like DCU, who they fill out the detail that actually feeds into the curriculum and the class exercises and all that your children get exposed to. So that's the path. That's how it gets there.
And then, Eugene, we've done a piece on the stakeholder capitalism and how the corporations are captured by this because they get money to push the DEI agenda. So if we look at, some of the corporations, like all of the pharmaceutical companies, they're captured because the likes of AbbVie, where Helen McEntee's husband is a director of, they make puberty blockers to sterilize children. So it's no surprise that some of these big pharma, big tech to censor us, big finance, they all have this DEI woven into every fabric of their corporation.
Absolutely. We covered on, why the rainbows, the corporate equality index. And to get a good score in the corporate equality index, you have to fund and sponsor LGBT inclusive type activities, and sponsoring, queer studies in a university is a way of doing that.
Yeah.
Or gender studies or feminist studies. They're all kind of women's studies. They're all generally cover the same ground.
Pop the link, Eugene, to that podcast in this description for anyone who hasn't seen it, on why there are so many rainbows everywhere. Yeah. That's a really good insight there.
That's what bankrolls these people.
Yeah.
And of course, the Irish government bankroll them. The NGOs. Like in other countries, they have to get money from the philanthropists. They don't need it in Ireland because the Irish government give it to them.
6 billion a year, 32,000 NGOs get 6 billion euros of our taxpayer money to push this propaganda.
Yeah, as I said, you need to get it from Bill Gates or George Soros or somebody else in another country, but in Ireland, the government will give it to you. So the final piece here on Safe Schools Alliance, they did this review of the relationship and sexuality education curriculum in Wales. And you could kind of replace Wales with Ireland, and you wouldn't be far off the truth. And certainly as to where it's going, because people we've seen where it's going, Jana. The Irish public haven't seen where it's going yet, but you'll hopefully get a view of that in the near future. And look at the reference here. Look at this reference to post-humanism and queer theory. Like we talked about it on another video when we were covering queer theory and Gail Rubin and the progression. The progression that she had to, transvestites and all that kind of thing. And we asked what's next. Well, what's next is transhumanism or posthumanism. So why is this coming into our education system with queer theory? Redefining sex, whole school approach. There we go. The whole school approach. Every subject, cross curriculum, can't get away from it. Sexualization, sex positivity. We've seen it all like this. So take a look at this document, because this will give you an insight into the mentality behind this. And this is the exact same stuff that's going to happen or is happening in Ireland. So let's learn from the lessons of the UK, and particularly the lessons from Wales, because that's very applicable because of the involvement of some of the same people in developing that particular curriculum and developing the teacher training stuff in Ireland for this. So people should be tuned into this. This is horrific. It really is, and there's more to come.
Absolutely horrific. And I think that's the last bit of information in our wrap up today. So lots to cover. Again, just all the links to all of the articles and the material is in the video description. Everything that we speak about, we have evidence and facts to back it up. So if everyone watching could just give us a like on the video, share the video with everyone you know, and leave your comment, any feedback that you have as well. The likes and the comments will help us beat the shadow bans when we publish content such as this. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to cover, just pop us an email over to info@naturalwomenscouncil.ie. That's info@naturalwomenscouncil.ie. And we will include some of your stories that you want us to cover, or if you want us to look into anything, we'll absolutely cover that in our weekly wrap up. So thanks everyone for watching, and it's great. Let's focus on the wins, keep the optimism, keep the faith. We are seeing that this political woke agenda attacking schools, there are so many cracks in the foundation. The house is built on quicksand, and now's the time to really knock it down. So thanks everyone for watching.